Right. So today I got Coach Vincent Williamson again on my podcast. Currently the head strength coach at University of Pittsburgh men's basketball. Uh, Vince, can you like talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Appreciate you inviting me back. My name is Vincent Williams. Again, currently the head strength and conditioning coach for the University of Pittsburgh men's basketball. Going into my fourth season here at Pitt. Spent time in the NBA with the Philadelphia 76ers and Washington Wizards. And this is my third collegiate stop. Started off at Coppin State University, and then was also the director of basketball performance at the University of Rhode Island.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we met is actually back at Louisville, and me, Nate, and Gio Adam, we were all there. And so we decided to do a podcast last year. And after that podcast, like Nate really enjoyed it. And uh I think a few months ago, I actually met one of your intern in Florida, if I remember it correct. I think it's at Florida. So actually, like, I think throughout your career, like, there's a lot of young coaches like look up to you, right? And they learn from you, like me, like Nate. So, throughout your journey, you've been into the NBA. Now you're at like college. I want to start by asking, like, being a strength coach in the NBA and being a head strength coach at like D1 Par 4 college level, what it takes to be a strength coach at that level.
Yeah. Great question. For me, I always say it's in the details and it's in your preparation. Um, when I started at Coppin State, that was P4 to me. Like I know it's like the cliche thing to say. It's like, oh, like it's big time where you're at, but a lot of people don't treat it that way. Um, to me, making it to Coppin State was P4, right? Like, so everything I did, I was trying to be the absolute best where I was at. And then learning all of the intricacies of the job and all the nuances, the business side, the recruiting side, all of those things. The training kind of takes care of itself, but I think to really be effective at this level and at the NBA level, you understand all the dynamics that go into the job and really having an understanding of that to me is how you're successful at this level. It's much less training. Like training is training. Like me and Cliff Spiller, who's one of my best friends, we talk a lot and we just say everybody pretty much is doing the same thing. Social media now and just the boom that is social media and everyone's posting content. Everybody pretty much is doing the same thing. It's the nuance and the detail and the buy-in that really allows you to separate yourself, and I think that's where you're able to have success at the higher levels.
Nice. I like you mentioned that. I like you said that in terms of training or like sports science, everybody kind of do the same thing, right? Like whatever they're posting, like first place still do like kind of movement jump, and a lot of basketball guys do Gary Gray stuff, right? So, uh, if there's like young coaches out there, they want to learn and they want to uh, like maybe one day like be someone like you. What would you recommend those young coaches to like start? Where should they start, or what should they like start learning to or look into?
Uh, ooh, Another good question. To me, I'm a hands-on experience guy. I feel like there's so much you can learn just being in an environment. I feel like that's what helped me the most. I interned under Kyle Talk, who I don't think gets enough credit for being the genius that he is. I interned under Kyle for 2 years, and I'm I'm 10 years into my career now, and I'm still drawing back on things that I saw Kyle do. just from being there day in and day out, right? Like the time, the equity that you put into a place. To me, there's nothing that beats that. Um, that's what I'm big on. You just learn so many lessons, time management, running a program, nutrition, dealing with the medical side, athletic trainer, doctors, head coach, communication. To me, I would just say I would highly recommend finding somewhere where you can plant your feet and really be there, like you and Gio and they did. Like that's why I was so impressed with you guys. Like to me, that's what I think this profession needs more of. Is guys like you guys were planted, you guys were there, you guys treated like you were professionals. I think that's like look at you guys now, right? I just saw Gio is going to Detroit,
Piston.
right? Pistons, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I love that kind of stuff, man. Like to see the growth and the progression of people who do it the right way. You know, so that would be my recommendation. That would be my advice: is to really plant your feet somewhere, so that you're ready when that opportunity comes.
Nice, nice, nice.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go to like I want to take this conversation into like more training, right?
Okay.
So you you were at the NBA a few years ago, and now you're at college. And I know before the NBA, you were also working college. So
Mhm.
especially right now with all the NIL going on, like how do you think that changes like the way of you programming strength training?
For me, I can't say it's changed because my approach has always been the same. Um, my approach to training and how I program has always been based on my environment. I think that's one of the things that's been to my benefit of having to go back and forth between college and the NBA. Obviously, the college setting, more time. So that's going to dictate what you're able to do. NBA, less time. So that dictates what you're able to do and how you're able to build out your program. So for me, it hasn't changed much. Um, the NIL isn't as big of a thing to me because once you work with guys who are making 41 million a year, 15 million a year, 4 million a year, the obviously the numbers with NIL now are like they're crazy, right? Like
Yeah.
just to see what guys are getting, and it's for 30 games, so yeah, crazy, right? Like we're talking about 30 games and guys are getting like minimum deals in the
Yeah.
NBA. So like for me, it's not as big a thing. The money side of it does it dictate how you do things? Yeah, but like once you work with like you have to have a certain level of detail when you're training a guy that's making 41 million a year, like he expects. So like to me, I never really turn that off. Like if you approach every guy the same way, I know the saying, you stay ready, you have to get ready, right? So it's like if you kind of go into it with that mindset constantly, like you're less worried about how much a guy's making.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
The other part of NIL is like nowadays, this conversation actually go back to like last year when we went on the trip to like Pitt, Michigan,
Hmm.
Auburn, all those 10 schools,
Yeah.
right? Um, we were doing all like the 1080 force weight test, and somehow I forgot who brought up this conversation about like if we come back next year, is there gonna be like how like for 15 men roster, how much of those athletes gonna come back next year? So from year to year that the roster gonna change, and if a if a strength coach stay for college for a long time, like maybe over 10 years, he probably would have a like long-term athletic development like a few years ago, right? But do you think that's like nowadays can you still like plan long term and how would you approach that?
Yeah. To me, long term athletic development, right? And I'm not professing to be an expert on it, but long term athletic development is essentially always programming for the lowest hanging fruit. So if you get a guy and you know you only have him for 5 months, why wouldn't you program or train for the lowest hanging fruit, right? So like you might not have to do that 2, 3 years at a time, but okay, what's the focus this year? Okay, do I have the guy next year? No. Okay, start over. That's the job. It's not like strength and conditioning has. It's a great field to be in, but you have to adjust. And the job now is not what the job was 10 years ago. Like you knew you would have a guy, 3 seasons, 4 seasons. The job's changed. So like we can sit and debate over all of these, charts and ideologies, but if they don't relate to the time now, then there's really not much of a discussion to have. So to me, long-term development is always programming for the lowest hanging fruit. How do I get this guy from A to B, right? And then the next year, it's B to C, right? Or it might just be A to B every year. That's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like you did your job, like now it's A to B, B to C, C to D, right? Now, on the flip side, we all want to be able to take a guy from A to B, B to C, C to D, you know. That's always the goal. But if that's not within your control, then just control what you can control.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
So, uh, the other, uh, one of the main reason why you on, like, I invite you on again, because is because you, it's like you, Adam, Cliff, you guys all implemented a lot of like Gary Gray stuff. So before I came to the state, I trained like national team basketball player in Taiwan. For us, there's not like what we did back then is a lot of like back squat, a lot of like pure sagittal plane or pure frontal plane whatsoever. We didn't really put in a lot of Gary Gray 3D map whatsoever in it. And so when I come to Louisville, Adam implemented a lot of stuff. When I see you, you implemented a lot of like Gary Gray stuff. I know it probably start from Todd, right? But as I like, so this week I was actually doing consulting job for like a few ACL return to play, right?
Okay.
Then I realized that, oh my God, that the all the 3D map stuff is actually really helpful for basketball players to like performance or even return to play. So I want to start by like, asking you what got you into the whole Gary Gray stuff?
All right. You want the real story?
Yep, yep.
All right, here we go. So I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland. That's where Kevin Durant's from.
Oh,
Yeah. So Kevin Durant, the neighborhood I lived in, neighborhood Kevin Durant lived in are like 20 minutes apart. You remember Kevin Durant goes to the combine and
yeah.
can't bench 185, right? That's the story. So I'm at Towson studying exercise science. And like obviously I follow like KD. So it was Kevin Durant, Michael Beasley, Taiwan Lawson. All of those guys were kind of around my age. So like obviously KD was a big deal. So he can't bench 185. I think I'm some young hotshot strength coach. I want to be. That's I didn't know I wanted to be a strength coach at the time. But I'm like, yo, like how can he go to college and can't bench 185? What is his strength coach doing, right? So yeah, so this is the story. So if you know me, I dig, I look, I try to figure out what's going on. I'm like, who's the strength coach? So I find out it's Todd Wright. Todd Wright guy. What is he doing? Right. So then I started to look into it. So I like kind of filed the name away. You know, KD goes on to be KD. I graduate, trying to figure out what I want to do. And uh, I'm working as a personal trainer, and the Washington Post puts out an article about Kyle, and he's doing stuff off the Kaiser with the VBT, right? Some vertical core stuff, and they photograph it, and I look, I'm like, man, like that's interesting, right? So I dig. So I read obviously I read the article, right? I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. I read the article, and there's the name again, Todd Wright. Kyle worked under Todd for 2 years back in Texas. I'm like, wait, this the same guy that, oh, he used to work for him? Him? He's right. And like, again, from where my parents lived, where I was living with my parents at the time, University of Maryland was 15 minutes. So I'm like, man, he's right down the street. Like, I would love to learn. So I reached out to Kyle, and the rest is history. But that's the story.
Nice, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
So, would you say that so basically throughout your like strength coach career, you probably implement the all good stuff throughout your career. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. So like when I got to Maryland, um, I was very much of the same traditional mindset, right? Like, okay, back squat, trap bar deadlift, clean, bench, and we still do that stuff. Like, it's not like we're just out here just vertical core, Viper everything we can Viper. It's not that. It's the balance of both functional and traditional. So getting to Maryland really helped me to understand the methodology and how you can program it into a lift and how you can do it over 365 and things of that nature. So I've been using it since I've been in Maryland. And it's only gotten better and better and better with time and how I implement it and different combinations and different times of year and things of that nature. Then you go to the NBA and you have to figure out how to use it differently, right? Because you don't have as much time with a guy and the progressions you teach it in, things of that nature. So yeah, I've been using it 10 years now. How it looks now is not how it looked when I first started doing it. That's the great part. As you grow and you get better, you see different things and um, stuff like that. So but I use it. I use it year round. I think it's great. Obviously, you know, people reach out, ask to see how it's done and things like that. I tell people I wouldn't know how to use it if it weren't for Kyle. Just give me an idea. I'm a very visual person. Just to see how it's done, and then obviously with social media now, everybody's doing a lot of Gary has a lot of Gary Gray influence now. You can once you understand the uh, the nuts and bolts of what AFS is, then you can not only just see something and replicate it. I don't think that's. I mean, yes, that's part of it, but you can also see any exercise and how you can tweak it in a variety of ways. It's not just copy and paste. You can cut, edit a little bit, and then paste again. I think that's the best way to go about it.
Nice, nice. So,
Yeah.
feel like this question is probably, man, like really good to ask you
Mm-hmm.
because coming from like a different country, different
Mm-hmm.
background, different culture, like
Mm-hmm.
we don't do that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I just started implement those stuff in the last 2 years. So I guess my question would be like, what do you think is like the most helpful for you to doing all those stuff in terms of like just
Say that last part again. Cut out. Uh-oh. I can't hear you. Did you mute?
can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah, now I
Yeah.
can hear you. Say
So
that
so
again.
so my question is like, um, implementing like the Gary Gray stuff,
Hmm.
how do you think that help you separate from other coaches? And how do you think that helps you like uh help the athlete perform better?
Yeah, great question. I think it goes back to the three pillars that Gary always talks about: behavioral, physical, and the biological. Um, to me, as far as it goes to the question of separating yourself, it starts at the behavioral, right? Like you're talking about basketball players, they want to know that what you're doing is benefiting them. So that behavioral side, once you show them what you want them to do or the different patterns, positions, and movements, there's something about the hooper brain, right? That I've been doing this, that when you put them in certain positions, something triggers in their brain. They're like, oh, this feels very familiar. I'm very used to this pattern, position, movement. So now, once you have that trigger in the brain, then you start to add load, you start to add all of these different drivers to it. Then the physical and the biological kind of take care of themselves. What you're understanding as a strength coach, like how to progress an exercise, intensity, volume, all those things that we all know, the science behind it. So I would say always start with the behavioral, right? It always starts there. For me, I feel like that's the separator. Again, we're all doing the same stuff, right? But we all can't elicit the same behavior from our athletes. That's the separator, if I'm being honest. Um, so the science, more science based side, the physical and the biological, those things are kind of set in stone, based on how you progress and how you train a guy. But it starts with the behavioral.
Nice, nice. So,
Yeah.
um, the following question is, um, since you do all like you implement a lot of like rotational movement, 3D movement.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, like what we did last year, force plate is pure like sagittal, pure vertical. 1080 is like yeah, 1080 can put like rotation stuff in it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how do
Mm-hmm.
you combine like those two? And especially like a lot of coaches are looking at numbers right now.
Yeah.
So does like how do you balance like chasing outputs and like helping athlete maintain health?
Yeah. Great question. Um, for me and the way my brain works, I try to compartmentalize. Um, I know that's like you're not supposed to do that. I try to help me function. I compartmentalize. So I keep the force plate stuff with force plate. We're not fortunate enough to have 1080 yet. Um, but with 1080, I will let the 1080 data be the 1080 data. Um, the way I train a guy with my coach's eye and what I'm seeing and the things of that nature, um, I let that kind of honestly, I let that dictate more so. Like that has more importance to me, just based on because I'm seeing them on the floor every day. I'm seeing how they're moving. I kind of let that be the guide. And then the 1080 data, the force play data, gym aware, catapult, all of those things. I kind of let that support my coach's eye, right? Like if I see something, okay, what does catapult say? Is catapult validating that, or is catapult saying no, it's actually fine? Is the gym aware data saying, oh yeah, that's what you see is correct or not? Force plate is the force plate data, yeah, check, so if it's check, check, check with the coach's eye, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna make an adjustment if an adjustment needs to be made, whichever way, either uh, progress forward or dial it back, so it's kind of like coach's eye with the lead and then allow your technology to support your coach's eye.
Nice. So I think Nate will like Nate actually want to be here, but he has some family stuff, so he can't be here this time.
No problem.
But I think what we both want to ask is like you mentioned coaching eye, is there any
Mhm.
time in your career that the coaching eye doesn't match with what you saw on first plate? And then how you deal with that situation?
It is it is few and far between. It is few and far between. Like you're asking in the sense that like if I think a guy's tired and then he'll jump like uh he'll hit like 85% plus of his output of his jump height. You're saying some
Yeah,
situation like
something
that.
like that, something like that.
Yeah, it's few and far between. It's few and far between. Usually the more you start to do this, again, we're fortunate we have, an abundance of technology. If you're a coach and you're dialed in, you honestly can see it coming, right? Like you start to learn your athlete, you start to learn their behaviors, you are anticipating it. Nothing really is like, oh man, where did that come from? It's not that. You usually start to anticipate, and when you do see it on the plates or in the GPS, you're like, okay, yeah, I thought it was coming. I didn't know when. Now this kind of helps me, pinpoint exactly when, but you kind of have an idea of what's coming down the pipe. Game schedule, practice schedule, playing well, we're not playing well, heavy game period, light game period, um, guys' sleep patterns, is how he fuels, all of those things. Like you start to learn your athlete and their patterns, and you can kind of anticipate, based off of what's going on within the environment, how they're going to respond. So very rarely am I caught off guard. Does it happen? Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you an example. Omega Wave. You remember Omega Wave? Yeah. So I'll give you this story. So I'm at Maryland. We're using Omega Wave, men's and women's team. I won't say the player's name. She's now in the WNBA. And that's when I learned that some athletes are just different and you got to let them rock. um, that is part of experience. That is also a part of coaching. Uh, her Omega Wave was trash. Uh, it was red as red can be. If you know anything about Omega Wave, you're supposed to shut that athlete down. They should sit out of practice today. All those things, all those red flags. And she came in, she, was poor, Omega Wave, and she went out and dominated practice.
Oh my
I
God.
still remember it to this day. She won every sprint after every drill. No one could stop her. Maybe, the survival state thing was just a thing for her, right? Like maybe that's where she thrived. But I will never forget that day because you have to see it. And then she's been in the W, and she's been there for years now, like multiple contracts. So seeing that again, being in the fire, right? Like putting your feet on the ground somewhere and seeing all of these things that we talk about in action in real life, real live when the bullets are flying. Seeing that again, I've never forgot it. So and to you talk about like technology use, did we see it coming? Yeah, because it was a heavy part of preseason. Like we weren't shocked when we saw it, but based on the technology recommendations, we should have did one thing and we didn't because that's not really how it worked in that environment. As you go out and kill practice, and so just having those examples to fall back on.
Nice, nice. So,
Yeah,
um, I really appreciate that, like you share all
mm-hmm.
these stories
Yeah,
because that's actually really awesome. And I feel like if I like,
yeah.
I'm like, this is my 8 year of being a strength coach. If I'm like
Mm-hmm.
way young, like year one, year two, I was like, oh my God, that's like really cool,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
no, like I talk to my interns about it, people because I talk about it all the time, like just having examples when the bullets are firing or flying, right? Like you have to be able to rely on that stuff because the only thing that's consistent about working in sports is inconsistency. That is the only thing that's consistent. And being able to manage and have a level head in those situations, that's what you have to be able to fall back on. And a lot like all of the boom of information and content and knowledge is great. It is. I'm not knocking it at all. What I'm saying is the more experience you get, you have to be able to absorb the content and be able to know. I think that's where we need to go now as a professional is absorbing the content and knowing when to put it into practice. Because everything you see and everything that's posted doesn't apply to you at that time. It might apply 3 years from now. It might apply, it might have been useful for the past year. Like that's how it goes sometimes, right? But I'm able to absorb it and know when to use it. I think that's where we need to go with all this content that we're getting. That tidbit I got from Katie Fowler. She was a strength coach for Maryland women's basketball, and we just did just like a huddle after one day, and we were talking Gary Gray, we were talking programming, and she saw this look in my face, like my eyes were just like I'm just like, what do you do with all this knowledge? And this is before social media. Right. It's before that. And she was like, I see it on your face. You're trying to figure out when do you use all of this. I was like, yeah. And she's like, it'll come with time. Like she's like, absorb it, understand it. She said, but you'll know when, So shout out to Katie for that.
Nice, nice. All
Yeah.
right, you brought up like your intern.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I feel like is really, really cool is go back to last year, we went on the trip to like 10 schools, right?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
we were able to do the test for 10 schools and like stay there to watch like I think almost every team's practice.
Mm-hmm.
Think so. And one thing I think is like really, really cool and it's really different what you guys have than other school is like you guys have a really good culture, right? And like me and Adam was there like I think probably none of your athletes saw us before, and all your athletes and even your intern are really
Yeah.
cool and nice to
Yeah.
us. Not saying like other kids are
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
nice. They're
Yeah.
all nice, but like you guys are very welcoming and like
Yeah.
very, very cool, very, very
Yeah.
welcoming. I
Appreciate it.
was
Yeah.
shocked.
Yeah.
Like, like when we're at Louisville, like basketball kids are
Uh-huh.
like kind of asshole, but you guys are very, very welcome. Like even your
Yeah.
intern, your
Yeah.
staff. So
Yeah.
can you kind of like talk to me how you build that culture, the relationship between you and your athlete and you and your intern?
Great question. It's organic. It's organic. The I the way we've talked training and sports science and all of that, I wish I had like the same methodology for building culture. Um, yeah, I try to be as authentic as possible with my interns. You might have met our dietitian, Dop. She might have been
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there. Yeah, like and you can ask them, like when I make the initial phone call to introduce myself, I am very authentic. Like I want you to know what you're getting yourself into. I keep it as plain as possible. I don't sugarcoat anything. And what I've learned is people appreciate that. Like they know I'm not trying to sell them anything. I'm just like, hey man, if you don't think this is for you, I get it. That's fine. Um, I know Bilal and Dop in particular, they appreciated the authenticity of what it was, you know, and that authenticity, I think helps drive an organic relationship to where it doesn't feel like work now, right? Like that's one of the things I learned from Tador when I was working with the Sixers. I remember like when I interviewed, like I had all my PowerPoint slides and everything was ready to go, and he just talked to me. He was asking me about my family, about my parents, my wife, my kids, and the interview was like an hour long, and like we probably talked training for like 15 minutes. Like I talked about, yeah, I talked like about my family for 45, and I was just like, and so I remember like after I got hired, after I got the job, I asked him, I was like, how did you, why did you do it like that? He was like, yeah, like we knew you could do the job, like we weren't worried about that. Um, we just wanted to know because we were around each other so much, like, can we just have a genuine conversation? Do we like if we land in the city, do I want to go get dinner with you? You know, like those things. And then as we went through the season, I understood it because if you don't like somebody, you don't want to talk to them, and you can't solve problems if you don't want to talk to somebody. So, kind of reverse engineering it is like that makes sense. Like if I have a problem and I don't want to talk to you, problem's not going to get solved.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's kind of how I gauge things with my athletes, with our staff and things of that nature. Like, do I just legit just want to just talk to this person, hang out with this person? And I found that it kind of it starts at the top, So I'm great that you heard that. I'm great, I'm grateful that you observed that. I've never like no one's ever said that to me. I'm just kind of operating how I operate, But the athletes see it. Like athletes they're not stupid, they we've been fortunate to have a group of guys who are really appreciative of the stuff that we do, and how we try to help them get better and things of that nature. And yeah, it's organic. I try to explain it as best I could, but I just think it starts with who you are as a person. And your athletes are going to know. Like they're going to know. Like day one, they're going to know what kind of person you are. If you're faking it, if this is really you, and things of that nature. So I think that's how I go about it.
yeah. Cause like there really is a difference between like going to you guys like court, watching your
Hmm.
guys practice,
Hmm.
and like talking to your staff than
Yeah,
other schools, right? There
appreciate that.
really is a
Yeah,
difference. And like what is also really cool is that I also become like close friends with your staff last year, which is really cool. Kind
yeah.
of talk like every week. So that's kind of awesome.
I love to hear that, man. Like to me, I think that's so dope. I really do. Like I think like you belong. Like I think that's dope, man. I really do. And it's like the fact that you guys talk every week. I know you can't be talking about training that often. Not saying you don't, but like to want to talk to someone every week, like to me, that's so cool. It
Yeah.
really is. So I think that's what this profession is about. If I'm being honest, a lot of strength coaches take themselves way too seriously. Um, I think Adam Petway is brilliant. Like he's absolutely brilliant. But AP is funny. Like AP is really funny. I'm sure you know more than me. Like
Yeah.
working, like he's a funny guy. Like and if you don't pick up on it, I've been able to pick up on it, and I think he's funny. As smart as he is, like he's really funny. So that's the stuff I enjoy. Is just hearing stories like that. So I like a lot of SSCs just take themselves way too seriously. It's just you can be in this profession one year and out the next. Like that's how the business works. Like everyone who's in it is very blessed and fortunate to be in the spot where they're at. So that's kind of how I view it.
Nice, nice. All
Yeah.
right, next question is,
Hmm.
um, like we mentioned, it's really fun to like talk to you and like
Hmm.
talk to you and your staff. But like you mentioned, there's a lot of like coaches out there who probably do something different. But
Hmm.
um, one thing I realized in the last few months is uh being a nice human being and
Yeah.
like trying to be nice to everybody around you, being authentic. How do you stay authentic, stay true all the time?
My family keeps me grounded. My family keeps me grounded. I'll give you this story. Just so you, this will give you a perfect idea. I started at Coppin State. I'll tell anybody that I started at Coppin State. And my original, they asked me what did I want my title to be? Kyle was director of basketball performance. So I made my title director of basketball performance. So my dad, he sees it on the website. He says it to me. He goes, "What are you directing? No one works under you."
That is that is funny. That is
I just had to laugh. I just had to laugh. I was like, "He's right." Like, and I try to like explain, I'm directing the training and the nutrition and recovery and all that stuff. But like they keep me grounded, man. Like I'm fortunate, they're able to see, the success that I'm having. They're a big part of it. But they absolutely like I'm in a group chat with them. They've come to visit, see my office, see the weight room. They come to games. They really keep me grounded. Every time my dad, sees some of the stuff, he's like, man, you've come a long way from Coppin State. You've come a long way from Coppin State. So it's like, yeah, he had the jab when I first got there, but like now, it's like, man, I'm just proud of you. You've come a long way. You've come a long way. So to me, I know for a fact, I know that's what keeps me grounded.
nice, nice. All
Yeah.
right. So being a head strength coach at Pitt,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you were at NBA at one point,
Mm-hmm.
and so at Pitt you get like, although probably like you mentioned you don't have tennis, but still force play,
Yeah. Yeah.
catapult if I remember correct,
Mm-hmm. Catapult. Yeah.
and velocity based training, anything you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
So what are some things that you're interested in right now, or like what are some things that you think are probably gonna help you like change the game somehow?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. Force plates for sure. Um, I want to dive more into force plates and understand force plates better. To make more uh, more detailed decisions. Taking Matt Jordan's course, again, we were talking before this, just talking to different people about how they go about it. I've always used them from a more global standpoint as far as um, output, strategy, readiness, like just kind of having, you know, an idea of where an athlete stands on those three fronts. I would say now is we have sort of the system in place for those three fronts. I think for me now is understanding how to impact each one of those three fronts. So from a readiness standpoint, like MRSI, okay, what goes into MRSI? What does that metric mean? How do you impact that metric? What are some things you can do to move the needle? Um, it's like as the saying goes, like how do you win the margins? I think that's where my head is at now. Like you have this system in place that we kind of built out over the last couple of years, where it's kind of plug and play. Almost like when you got athletes in and out the door. So often with this era, but you have like the system in place, and it's kind of now okay. How do we impact the margins more as far as being more detailed with how we're doing what we're doing?
Hmm. This is really interesting because
Yeah.
obviously you work with Adam before. You work with
Hmm.
Tador.
Yeah.
And like you're at Pitt for like what almost fourth like almost gonna start
Yeah.
your fourth season, right?
Let's be. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you like work with force plate like is it like eight at least 7 or 8 years?
Ooh. We had him. My first exposure to him was at Rhode Island. So Rhode Island, we had him. Actually, no, we had him with the Wizards.
Yeah.
So Wizards, we had him. Yeah, I'm probably pushing 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably about
So
seven
and
years.
like
Yeah.
imagine like man at Wizard then
Hmm.
Sixers and Pitt like all those
Hmm.
years and like all high level athletes,
Yeah.
high level work you have to do. Why
Hmm.
force plate? Like you deal with that for like the last 7 to 8 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, you already like if you say that you're not familiar with force plate, there's
yeah,
probably not a lot of people
yeah.
say that they're more familiar than you, but why force plate? Like, why do you want to dive
Yeah,
deeper into that?
I think it is, to me, it's the low hanging fruit, right? Like, so we have force plate, we have gym aware, we have catapult. To me, force plate is the thing of those three pieces of technology that I can have an impact on the most. Um, like catapult, yes, we want to monitor what they're doing on the court, but at the end of the day, that's more of like reporting. Like, hey, watch this. This is what this guy's doing. But like, I don't write the practice plans. I don't go through the individual skill development sessions. Hey, I can make suggestions. Hey, watch this. This guy could use more of this to help improve his fitness level, things of that nature. To me, force plates, now, there's a lot there too. And more research is being done on it. Obviously, I think because obviously, like when we like with the Wizards, we had they were inlay force plates, and that was my first time ever seeing them or hearing about them. So I was just trying to figure out how to use them, right? Like how to jump a guy. What is a counter movement jump, right? Go from the Wizards to Rhode Island, it was Hawking. That was my first time using Hawking, and it was okay. This is Hawking, and then that's when I built a relationship with Drake and just understanding because I at the time when I started with, it, I was like, I'm a jumper guy once a week, and then the more Drake sort of Drake not sort of Drake mentored me and gave me a framework for how to use them. I was like, and he kind of guided me in a way to where I understood. He was like, I was like, so I'm really not getting anything by jumping guys once a week. I'm like, yeah, you should jump them every day. And then, okay, jump them every day. How do we do that? At the time I was working by myself. This was during COVID. So like we couldn't have interns. So like building it into a lift, right? Understanding that dynamic. Okay, cool. Now I have all these data points. How do I kind of compartmentalize it to know what I'm looking for, to know what trends and based on how I program it? Okay, got that. I was only at Rhode Island a year. The next year I'm in Philly. We have a dedicated sports scientist. So I kind of took a step back. I was jumping guys, but we had Naraxon with 3D motion capture and all that stuff. So we had a dedicated sports scientist. So in that realm, I kind of took a step back from sport. I was still jumping guys, was still getting data reports. Obviously had an understanding of what each metric means, you know. Um, but we had a dedicated sports scientist. So I kind of passed, that off a little bit. Then come back to Pitt. It was kind of a continuation of coming from Rhode Island, right? Like, okay, we have Hoffman here. Okay, cool. Just kind of picked up where I left off, and like each year, just kind of built it out, more and more, to where we there is a system in place. I'm a systems guy, so having a system in place, how can we leverage these day to day? Okay, how do you guys? What's the schedule here at Pitt? All right, we practice at this time. Is there time to get guys in before practice each day? Okay, how do I do that? Okay, I need to talk to the academic advisor. Hey, can you send me the guys' class schedules? How can we build out this framework, to where we have this sort of holistic system in place? Um, so that took, year, 2 years, right? So then like last year, it was more kind of diving into, and Bilal helped me. Okay, this is this metric, this is this metric, this is how I came up with this. Oh, okay, this is how we can influence that, so forth and so on. So that's kind of where I want to go with it now more. Like the system is in place. I have an understanding of it. I have um, like we have the system. I know what the metrics are. I know what metrics influence what, but now having a greater understanding of each metric, you know.
Mm, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing before I let you go. So
Mhm.
I remember last time when we had like when we hop on a podcast,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be honest, people are literally jealous of me and Nate. I'm just, that's true. People are really jealous of me and Nate to be able to talk to you. So whatever. But like for those young strength coaches out there,
Mhm.
uh you already I know you are kind of already talk about this, but for those young strength coaches out there, like what are
Yeah.
some advice you would give them for them to for those who want to be at the NBA, for those who want to be a college strength coach?
Okay, this is gonna sound weird. Gonna sound weird, but don't take this the wrong way. If I'm being honest, do not set your sights on a destination. The NBA and college are destinations. I did not get into this saying I wanted to work in the NBA. The opportunity presented itself because the preparation I had done. The NBA chooses you, coach, player, equipment guy. Like the NBA chooses you. It does. Like it's the best 400 players. The best. Like it chooses you. You have to be ready for when it chooses you. Like that should be your mindset because if you're constantly chasing a destination, you're going to miss a lot. You miss a lot of opportunities to get better, to learn, to network. That's how you should go about it. Like if everything is driven towards one destination, you're going to miss a lot on the way there. And to me, that's not the best way to go about it. How was I able to get an opportunity to work in the NBA? I worked at Coppin State. Before I took the job at Coppin, I had met a guy named Naveen. You probably heard of Naveen or know Naveen. Naveen was working at a PT clinic in DC. That's how we met. The PT clinic, working there, he saw who I was as a person. He invited me to a Mystics practice. I went. I went a couple times. He was the head trainer at the time. In the WNBA at that time, there was one guy for both. Right. So like hearing how WNBA teams have full fledged staffs is awesome. Naveen was the strength coach and athletic trainer. I went to the Mystics practice. I stayed in my watch. Each time he invited me, I went. You know what that led to? Him inviting me to a Wizards practice when he got promoted up. Right. I didn't say, that's Mystics. I'm not interested in that. I want to work in the NBA. So if it's not NBA, I'm not going to do it. Right. Because I went to the Mystics practice, he invited me to a Wizards practice. I go to the Wizards practice. I'm introduced to Steve Smith, who I still talk to, right? Not as much, obviously, but like, hey, happy birthday, Steve. But like, I met Steve. Um, Steve goes, would you be, and this is that before the go-go reform, would you be interested in working? Would you be interested in being the G League strength coach? Absolutely. Right? Like, but he wouldn't even ask me that question if I hadn't shown my body of work. Right? You're not gonna just hire a guy off the street, So like there was there was time built up, right, to where now the opportunities presented to you. Now you're able to get into the best league in the world. That's your foot in the door. But like it started with me going to Mystics practices. Like that's what was presented to me. I kept working to get better, to understand, to do more and things of that nature. But like that's how the initial connection was made. So like understanding that, like this is not to take away from people's ambitions. Like, yeah, set goals. I have them, right? Like set goals that they like. We were talking about, before. So I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying like for to borrow the phrase, be where your feet are. Like how do you impact where you're at in that specific time? And people will see. Like people will see, like it'll speak for itself. You won't have to go post about it. You won't have to. People will see it, and it'll be so organic and so authentic, and it'll draw people in. It will, and I that's me. I'm not saying to say I'm right, but that's just like what I believe in. The success that I've had, the success I've been fortunate to have. That's kind of how I'm going about it. I went to Maryland. I quit a full time job to go work in Maryland. Like my dad still doesn't let me forget it. I was working full time at a full time job, and I quit that because this was my path. Like I was like, yo, like I really want to do this. And when I was at Maryland, like if I'm being honest, my first job was at a high school, Gwen Park High School in PG County before I got, but like being able to walk into Coppin State with confidence came from working at Gwen Park. How do you train a team? Like I had 30 kids, I had varsity and JV. How do you organize workouts? Like all of that stuff, all of those reps make a huge impact. They do. They do. Like you gotta have reps, So it's like I could have been, oh man, I don't want to work at a high school. I want to work P5. Go work at the high school. Get reps. Like there are things that you don't understand until you actually have the job. Things that you're responsible for that you didn't even know you're responsible for. Things that impact you and impact your performance on the job. Like I would never think that having a good relationship with the academic advisor would impact me, but it does. It does in college. It does. Like obviously there are no academic advisors in the NBA, but like in the NBA, that person might be different. It might be the ops guy. But like understanding those things and how sports work, you don't learn that until you get reps, real live reps. So that would be my advice.
Nice. Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. So, uh, I know you don't post a lot, but
Yeah.
but
Sorry
still,
about that.
for those who are interested in what we're talking about today, for
Yeah,
those who like, because obviously you do a lot of great work at Pitt and when you're at Sixers.
appreciate it.
For those who want to learn from you,
Yeah.
where can they reach out to you?
Sure. My Instagram handle is Vincent Williams CSCS. Well, at Vincent Williams CSCS. My Twitter handle is I think it's at Williams CSCS. I think. Don't quote me on that. I check Twitter, not a lot. I check it more for like Shams and ESPN and stuff like my personal interests. That's more so what I check Twitter for. If you want to reach out, if you have questions, definitely go the DM route. I do check my Instagram. I don't post a lot. It's just not my thing. I like watching other people's posts. Like I do view social media. Like I'm not living under a rock. I just like I went to post. Last funny story. I went to post last year. I posted last year. I posted a warm up, and like the whole way you post changed. There was so much time between my posts. I was like, "Yo, what is this?" Like, but anybody, I was like, "All right, I'm done." So that's why I haven't posted. But yeah, Vincent Williams, CSCS on Instagram. Email is williamscscs@gmail.com. If you DM me and I like you enough, I'll give you my cell. My cell is the best way to reach me, but I'm not putting my cell out.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you, coach.
Appreciate you, Eric.